Debunking the Libya versus South Africa double standard narrative. The argument that South Africa is unfairly targeted, while Libya's atrocities are ignored, is a sophisticated deflection. It attempts to shift the focus from South Africa's crimes by pointing to worse crimes elsewhere. This is the whataboutism fallacy dressed up as a moral critique. Here is a detailed refutation of each claim. 1. The Libya argument is a deflection, not a defense. The speaker argues that Libya's abuses are worse than South Africa's, so South Africa should not be criticized. This is a logical fallacy. If a man beats his neighbor and another man murders his neighbor, the beater does not get a pass because the murderer is worse. The beater is still guilty. South Africa's crimes are not excused by Libya's crimes. They are separate issues. They require separate responses. The speaker claims that South Africa is an easy target that nations like Nigeria and Ghana can bully. This is a mischaracterization. Nigeria and Ghana are not bullying South Africa. They are demanding accountability for crimes committed against their citizens. That is not bullying, it is diplomacy. If a student cheats on an exam and another student commits arson, the cheater does not get a pass because the arsonist is worse. The cheater is still guilty. South Africa is the cheater. Libya is the arsonist. Both are guilty. 2. The silence on Libya is not a defense of South Africa. The speaker criticizes Nigeria and Ghana for being silent on Libya, while vocal against South Africa. This is a valid criticism, but it does not excuse South Africa. It reveals the inconsistency of the critics, not the innocence of South Africa. The correct response is not to silence criticism of South Africa. It is to amplify criticism of Libya. Two wrongs do not make a right. The failure of African leaders to address Libya does not make South Africa's crimes any less real. The speaker claims that African leaders are selling Gaddafi and are complicit in Libya's destruction. This may be true, but it does not make South Africa innocent. It makes African leadership complicit in multiple crimes. If a police officer arrests a thief while ignoring a murderer, the thief does not go free because the murderer was ignored. The police officer is incompetent, but the thief is still guilty. 3. The Gaddafi argument is a romanticized history. The speaker claims that under Gaddafi, Libya was debt-free, prosperous, and offered benefits even Americans did not enjoy. This is a selective reading of history. Gaddafi was a dictator who suppressed dissent, funded terrorism, and ruled with an iron fist. His regime was not a paradise. It was a police state with oil money. The prosperity he created was built on the exploitation of oil wealth, not on the protection of human rights. Also claims that African leaders sold Gaddafi to Westerners who destroyed the country. This is a convenient narrative that absolves Gaddafi of responsibility for his own actions. Gaddafi's overthrow was a result of his own brutality and miscalculations. The West did not create the Libyan revolution. It exploited it. A businessman who builds a fortune through exploitation and then blames his competitors for his downfall is not a victim. He is a criminal who got caught. Gaddafi was not a victim. He was a tyrant who lost control. 4. The real xenophobia. Argument is misleading. The speaker claims that Libya represents real xenophobia, while South Africa is a distraction. This is a false dichotomy. Both are real. Both are crimes. One does not negate the other. The speaker also claims that migrants are being sold like chickens in Libya. This is a horrific allegation, but it does not make South Africa's attacks on migrants any less real. South Africans are also being attacked. Their homes are being looted. Their businesses are being destroyed. The fact that Libya is worse does not make South Africa good. If two patients are sick, one with a cold and one with pneumonia, the cold patient does not get ignored because the pneumonia patient is worse. Both need treatment. 5. The apartheid history. Argument is offensive. The speaker claims that critics are undermining the struggles of South Africans who paid the price during apartheid. This is a manipulation of history. South Africa's anti-apartheid struggle was supported by other African nations. Nigeria and Ghana contributed to the liberation effort. The victims of South Africa's Afrophobia are the children of those who helped liberate South Africa. To attack them is to attack the legacy of that struggle. The speaker also claims that South Africans paid the price and should not be criticized. This is a dangerous argument. It suggests that past suffering excuses present crimes. This is not a moral position. It is a justification for impunity. A man who was once a victim of violence does not get a free pass to become a perpetrator. His past suffering does not excuse his present crimes. The same applies to South Africa. 6. The African Union argument is a red herring. The speaker calls on the AU to step in and address the continent's integration failures. This is a valid point, but it does not address South Africa's crimes. The AU's failure to act does not excuse South Africa. The speaker also claims that African nations are becoming anti-immigrant. This is true, but it is a separate issue from South Africa's Afrophobia. The rise of anti-immigrant sentiment across Africa is a problem, but it does not make South Africa's actions any less criminal. If a student is failing a test and the teacher is incompetent, the student does not get a pass because the teacher is incompetent. The student is still failing. South Africa is the student. The AU is the teacher. Both are failing. 7. The integration argument is a distraction. The speaker urges migrants to stay away from Libya and calls on the AU to sponsor integration programs. This is a practical suggestion, but it does not address the root cause of the problem, the failure of African leaders to protect their citizens. The speaker also suggests that migrants should learn to integrate, respect laws, and coexist, used to blame victims for their own suffering. It ignores the fact that migrants are fleeing violence and poverty. They are not choosing to be victims, they are escaping. If a family is fleeing a war zone and is attacked by the host community, the solution is not to tell the family to integrate better. The solution is to stop the attack and hold the perpetrators accountable. Conclusion: the Libya argument is a deflection, not a defense. The argument that South Africa is unfairly targeted, while Libya is ignored, is a sophisticated deflection. It attempts to shift the focus from South Africa's crimes by pointing to worse crimes elsewhere. This is not a defense of South Africa. It is a distraction. The correct response is not to silence criticism of South Africa. It is to amplify criticism of Libya. The correct response is not to excuse South Africa's crimes. It is to hold both South Africa and Libya accountable. It is not that South Africa is targeted unfairly. It is that South Africa is committing crimes against fellow Africans, and those crimes are being ignored by the same leaders who are vocal about other issues. The solution is not to silence criticism of South Africa. It is to hold all perpetrators accountable.